Welcome to NuttieBuddie Sports. Previewing the Seattle Seahawks.
The Seattle Seahawks. So that means, Talon, you're going to get all the questions first about your Seahawks. So, Talon, tell me, what is the biggest question that you have for your Seattle Seahawks this year?
The biggest question, like if I could ask the GM or Pete Carroll a question.
Yeah, whatever the biggest question is. Yep.
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say, why is it that every time we get rid of one of our all-star defensive players, they have such a bad taste left in their mouth? What goes on behind the scenes that we don't see? The news with Bobby Wagner was really upsetting. I know he's a good guy. So my question would be, how can we create a better environment in the locker room for the players moving forward? That'd be my question. That's what I want to see this year answered.
Yeah, that's actually a good question because you're right. Who was it? Earl Thomas? He wasn't really happy right before he left, but I think he got injured.
Richard Sherman. Yeah, Richard Sherman too.
Yeah. Man, no, you're right. Jack, what's the biggest question for you surrounding the Seattle Seahawks?
Definitely the biggest question for me is, are they going to make a move at quarterback? Are they going to trade for Jimmy G? Or are they going to take who they have, try to win? Or I think they should maybe lose a little so they can have some good draft picks. They have 2 first-rounders this next year. If they play their cards right, they can have a really good quarterback in next year's draft. Or are they going to take their shot on another quarterback and that's already playing the league? So that's my biggest question.
Yeah, that's another good one. There is supposed to be, I think, 2 really good quarterbacks coming out of college. It's supposed to be a top 5 pick next year. So we'll see if they kind of sort of like tank for whoever it is. Chad, what about you? What's your biggest question for the Seahawks?
I'm kind of curious, how much of a leash does Geno Smith get as a starting quarterback? If you're not going to trade for Jimmy G, which I don't think they will, and I think San Fran would be stupid to trade into an interdivisional team anyway. How long does Geno get before maybe Drew comes in? I am curious. I like Geno Smith. I don't love him. I think he's a good backup, but I'm just curious the mindset of Pete Carroll, in that aspect, and also why did he let Russell go? So,
Yeah, go ahead, Talon.
Oh man, all the things that I could go on about why he let Russell Wilson go would take up the whole podcast. So I don't even want to go down that road. But yes, it does make me wonder moving forward as a franchise why we kept a 68-year-old, almost 70-year-old coach maybe by now over a 33, 34-year-old quarterback who's arguably still in his prime. That's a big question.
Yeah, because basically they chose, right? They chose Carroll over Wilson. Clint, do you have a question about for Seattle?
Are they going to have the number 1 pick? I don't think they'll be that bad, actually. I think they have enough stability built in that they're going to win a few games they probably shouldn't. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but just as was brought out, are they going to go for the number 1 pick? Are they just going to tear it down, or do they have too much pride in their franchise to try to piece it together and try to get 6, 7, 8 wins?
Was it that's a good question, because wasn't it like Travaris Jackson? Wasn't he the quarterback of the Seahawks when they made the playoffs at 7-9? So it's not like that. Maybe,
correct.
Yeah. So maybe they'll like just try to win some games. My biggest question basically is, will the restart work? Because that's what it seems like they're doing here. Move on from Russell Wilson. We already talked about Bobby Wagner gone. They've given up. There's no one from the old defense that's been there. Lockett is probably the only one that's been there the longest, when you think about like a notable Seahawk. So obviously they're restarting. Now it's going to be interesting to see what degree they restart. Are they like you guys mentioned, do they have the pride? Do they want to win 6 to 8 games, or are they going to restart fully and tank this year? If Geno, like, hey, let's see what Geno got, and if he stinks, then we got to go get a different quarterback instead of like playing this what's it called, where quarterback carousel, where you're bringing in different quarterbacks. But I'm with you, Chad. Even if they had a chance to get Jimmy G, I wouldn't do it. I think the Niners are going to end up cutting Jimmy G. If I had to predict, I don't think Jimmy G is getting traded. But I don't see the Seahawks wanting him. Clint?
Yeah. So my Jimmy G thing is no one's going to trade for him. The Niners are going to wait until Friday before week 1. They are going to cut him. He won't clear waivers until Tuesday. The 49ers play the Seahawks week 2. So they're going to wait till week 1 to cut him, because from a couple podcasts I was listening to, the Seahawks, that's why they're dragging their feet with Geno Smith. They're all in for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to sign there. He won't have 4 days, won't be enough for him to be ready to start. So the 49ers just don't want him to start week 2. And then from week 3, they play the Falcons. Jimmy G will start. The only other team I think he could end up with is the Giants. But I don't think the Giants are going to bench Daniel Jones because they can't trade him. Jimmy G has a no trade clause. He gets to pick where he wants to go. And the Niners obviously aren't going to trade him to the Seahawks, because the Seahawks are at this point are going to be like, cool, we'll just wait. And he'll end up in Seattle because he wants to make money and have a chance to start, and no other team is going to start for right now.
Interesting, Jack.
Yeah, and that was a good point that Clint made, that it could be the Giants as another choice, because in the end, Jimmy Garoppolo has the choice where he's going to go. And this is probably going to be a 1-year prove-it deal that he's going to get. And if you look at Seattle, I mean, Noah Fant, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, for Jimmy G, that's looking pretty enticing to kind of have a prove-it year. I mean, you're going to face some pretty heavy defenses, as we will talk about, but that's going to be a choice Jimmy G has. I'd rather take the Seattle offense than a Giants offense. But we'll see what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. Is all I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. That's a fair point. Sorry for interrupting you. Talon, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just really briefly, there's been talks that Jimmy G might go to the Browns, but to me, it's like he would just be playing there for Deshaun Watson to get back. Who wants to do that? Who wants to do that knowing your job is ending in 12 weeks at the start of the season? Like Jack said, it's enticing for him to go to Seattle. He wouldn't have to go very far. Wouldn't even have to go interconference. Wouldn't have to leave the division. He knows the division well already. He also has some inside scoops on the coaching there in San Francisco. It's intriguing, but again, ultimately, I'm with Chad. We got to make a decision. We can't play for 7 and 10, 6 wins. Let's just ride with what we.
Yeah, and that's where I am too. As a Dolphin fan, where we love to finish the season like 7 and 9 to 10 and 6 to whatever it is. Like, we just like to be middling and mediocre all the time. It's not a good place to be. It's just not, because you can't get any high-end talent in the draft, and you're never going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, unless if like Tom Brady legs falls off or whatever it was at the time. Now it's Mahomes, right? So I would just, I wouldn't go after Jimmy G, because I just feel like then what's your ceiling, like 8 and 9? So it's like, I don't know about that. Okay, let's go on to our next topic for the Seattle Seahawks. Talon, let's go back to you. What was your favorite offseason move that the Seattle Seahawks made? What would you say was your favorite offseason move?
A favorite offseason move? I mean, there's none that really come to mind that outweigh the bad offseason moves. So if I could say the entire 2022 draft class was my favorite offseason move, that would be my answer, because I really, really loved our draft. Looking back through history, when we look back at the 2012 draft that we had, the 2011 draft, 2010 draft, that's what those 3 drafts created our Super Bowl team. I feel like this could be the start. We look back at 2022, and 3 years from now, we'll be looking, this is the start of our Super Bowl team, because there's really not one pick that I disagree with. And also moving forward, there's some picks that I'll talk about later on that really excite me for Pete Carroll's mindset, that he went a different direction than his usual mindset of just running the ball. So it's exciting. So my favorite move was the entire draft. We knocked it out of the park.
Okay, let me ask you this, just before I move on. Malik Willis was available in the 3rd round. Were you somebody who kind of was hoping that they would have drafted Malik Willis?
Yeah, I was of two mindsets really, but I would more lean towards no. However, it kind of reminded me of the situation when the Arizona Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen and it didn't work out. And then the year after they went for Kyler Murray. I feel like it wouldn't have hurt to go that route. He fell so late, the risk reward would have been there.
Mhm.
And so far he's looked good in preseason. So right now I'm regretting it. I would have liked to see us draft him and use him. It's better than what we have right now. And if we didn't like him, it would have shown early and we could have moved on next year.
Yeah, I felt the same way as being a Lions like backer. I was like hoping that a 3rd round pick, come on, like for a quarterback. Jack, you had some?
Yeah, I just really like Kenneth Walker. I mean, he's 21 years old. He's a great running back. He's obviously hurt right now, but he's going to make some progress. I think it was a great pick with Chris Carson being out. They're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to be a running machine and control that clock. So I thought that was a really good pick by them. It was smart.
So while we're at you, then, is that your favorite move that they made this offseason, or do you have a different one?
Oh, that's my favorite. Sorry, we were on the negative moves. I'm bad. Sorry.
No. We're on the
Jump
favorite
ahead.
ones. We're on the favorite ones. No, I'm just making sure that was the one you wanted. Okay, how about Clint? Why don't you give us your favorite off-season move for the Seahawks?
I think their best move was trading Russell Wilson. They got top dollar for
take.
Russell Wilson. But just, I don't think he was happy there, as Talon brought out. Something was going on in that locker room. So I think their window to win it all was just about closed after last year. So if the Broncos are willing to give up all that they gave, and they even threw in the great lock. So, if you can get all that haul for Russell Wilson, who frankly, if he's not going to run anymore, I don't know that he's a top quarterback without his mobility. So I think it's a good move to take what you can get now and start over. And this year, their draft seems good. If you're going to get a couple top 5 picks, depending on, how things go, and you can draft that quarterback next year, you got, enough young guys on defense, a couple on offense. Now there's no better time than this year to just turn that page.
Yeah, and all the weapons. If you can get a young quarterback to put all those weapons around him, oh man, especially if that Walker pans out. Chad, what about you? What was your favorite move that the Seahawks made?
I like Noah Fant. I mean, I know it was part of the trade, but I'm a big Noah Fant fan.
Mhm.
So I think that's another weapon that the Seahawks have that I think it's kind of underrated. Like, you don't really hear many people talk about it, but I'm like, man, Noah Fant is really good. And it's been kind of quiet, but I think because of the turmoil at quarterback, maybe that, we don't know what Noah Fant can become. So, but that was my favorite. But I also like their draft too. I like Kenneth Walker. I'm a big fan of. And so, yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, that was what I wrote down, Noah Fant, when I was talking to when we did the AFC West preview. That the Broncos fan that joined me said that he wished they didn't put him in the trade. So I think the Broncos fans really like him. I think we all watch football enough to know that he's a pretty good tight end, top 10, top 7 tight end. So yeah, that was my favorite move. Okay, let's go to our least favorite move that the Seahawks made. Talon, tell me, what did you not like that the Seahawks did?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but getting rid of Bobby Wagner, that made me so mad the whole way that went down. It felt like echoes from the past when we treated Richard Sherman the same way, the way we did Earl Thomas dirty. It was like the same thing. And back then I thought, well, maybe Richard Sherman, it was his fault, maybe Earl Thomas' fault. But I know Bobby Wagner. He's established himself as a good guy. And so when he came out and said the way they did it was wrong, it made me question the franchise, the management of it all. And so that was by far the worst I've felt about the team, not just this year, but in any past year too.
Yeah, that was a surprising move too, because you think that with all the young guys that they're bringing in, they'd like some veteran leadership, someone like Wagner. Clint, what about you?
QB, we talked about Malik Willis or any of those guys in the 3rd round, 4th round that kind of fell, maybe take a shot on them for this year opposed to rolling out Geno Smith. Like, I think at this point we all know what Geno Smith is. There's not really upside there. Even if he has a relatively good year, you're not going to turn your franchise over to Geno Smith going forward. It's going to be whoever you draft or make a move for next year. So if it's not quarterback, since they were moving on, I don't know, maybe they could have found something for Tyler Lockett. There was a couple of needy teams, aka the Packers or something. Maybe you could have at least got something for and got the money off the books.
Unfortunately, the Packers would not give up what they want for Tyler Lockett. The Packers don't trade for no one, so I think that's Chad. What about you? What is your least favorite move?
Hands down, it was Bobby Wagner. I mean, I think the Seahawks, I like their defense. That's a fast defense. I didn't realize how fast they were until I watched them in preseason. And to have a guy like Bobby Wagner's veteran leadership to kind of coach those guys up, I cannot understand for the life of me why they let him go. And I think they're going to regret it.
That seems to be the consensus. I think you're right about that. Jack, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a broken record. Bobby Wagner is huge. I mean, why get rid of the guy? I mean, generational player, really amazing. And now he's just going to benefit someone very close to you in your division. So that is scary. And really, another thing is, why get rid of Russell Wilson? I'm sorry, but even for all those draft picks, even for Noah Fant, keep Russell Wilson. Get an offensive-minded head coach. Go get an offensive line and win some football games, because that's what you're going to do with Russell Wilson. You know, they're acting like he's Tom Brady, he's in his 40s, and they need to get rid of him. No. Russell Wilson still's got some ball left, and they just gave the Broncos a chance at the Super Bowl for the next 5 years. So, you know, pretty scary.
Yeah, I agree. I'm somewhere in between you and Clint on the Russell Wilson thing, because here's the thing. I always think that he's always been a little overrated. He's always kind of put at the same level of like Aaron Rodgers, and when Drew Brees was really good, Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes. I never thought he was that good. I felt like he was more in the same realm of someone like Matthew Stafford. He needed an offensive line and he needed a coaching change. That would be my thing. Like, I would have rather stuck with Wilson because he is probably a top 10 to 12 quarterback, and it is hard to find those in the NFL. Okay, again, I'm going to use my victim, teams here as the Dolphins and Lions fans. We've been searching for so long to get a top quality quarterbacks on both those rosters. If you could have made it work with him, I would have rather had him in the picks, because you just don't know with draft picks. You don't know what you're going to get. We got Tua, right? Like, what is he going to be, right? So I kind of agree. Like, I would have kept with Wilson, but I would have tried to make him happy. So if he was unhappy, like Clint said, how can I make you happy? Oh, you don't want to play for Pete Carroll anymore? Let's get rid of Pete Carroll. I'm sorry, he's 70 years old. He probably won't coach too much longer anyway. So that's the route I would have went. Clint, did you have something to add? Oh, you're muted, Clint.
Sorry, I was taking a drink before and I forgot to unmute myself. I was just going to say, I think Russell Wilson, you put it right, is more in the 10 to 15 range of a quarterback. And, I hate to feel like I'm coming in hot, but the Seahawks, cutting Bobby Wagner, you probably should have tried to trade him. But, I was just reading because I'm in an IDP league. He gave up almost 1,000 yards last year in coverage. Like, he scored horrible in coverage. So you're going to go young. You have Jordan Brooks. You have Cody Barton that they drafted a couple of years ago. They brought in. I just think the Seahawks reached their peak. Last year was their last year. And I know, especially if you're a fan of the team, I tend to be more cold and analytical when it comes to my sports teams, and that if you're not going to win, get rid of them. Like, take the picks. I know it doesn't guarantee you anything, but you were guaranteed not to win a Super Bowl this year if you brought back the team you had last year. They're not overcoming half these teams in the NFC. That defense is going to be, they're fast, but they're going to be god awful. So you're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. So just move on. and push the clock back, get that cheap quarterback next year. You pay DK Metcalf. You can start building talent around them like the 49ers are trying to do with Trey Lance. But I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't go all in on a quarterback that has steadily decreased the last 2 years. Not that he's out of it, but I'm just not a huge Russell Wilson fan, aka he choked in the Rose Bowl. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like I want to hear Talon's thought, but at the same time, like, okay, so if you tank, 50% of quarterbacks end up in bust. So what guarantees you get that quarterback next year? Even so, right? Like, so yeah, you take a chance, but or if you win 6 games, if you're like the 8th overall pick, now you're out of the range of the quarterback. So now you got to take all those assets that you accumulate and trade up for the guy that you hope becomes the quarterback. So that's where it's really sketchy to me. I think draft picks are sometimes way overvalued in my mind, but go ahead, Talon. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just thinking to sweep the Niners again would just be reason enough to bring back Russell Wilson. and now that's looking just like a long shot. Maybe it was Carroll all along, but that was my Super Bowl. So like if we brought back the team that we had last year, sure, probably no Super Bowl, no Lombardi, but sometimes you take the wins that you can get. And also I think back to when the Commanders at the time, the Washington football team or whatever we call them, got rid of Kirk Cousins because they wanted something better. And look at the limbo they've been in for how long now. And that's my concern. I don't want to be in the limbo of like that team is, just not knowing which direction to go. So for that reason, if I had to choose, I would have definitely kept Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Jack?
Yeah, I just on this topic, as a Niner fan, I hated facing the Seahawks, especially when we had the lead in the fourth quarter, because Russell Wilson had the ball. It didn't matter if he had 2 minutes left. He found a way to win. He was the best at it. Yes, I hate the Seahawks with much passion, but I have to respect Russell Wilson. And I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback next year and possibly the next 3 years. I think he was the only reason why they swept the Niners. They're going to learn real quick. You need an offensive young head coach in the NFC West to win. Pete Carroll isn't it. It's going to be rough.
Yeah, I guess. I kind of agree. I don't know if I agree with him being a top 10 quarterback this year. We'll wait and see. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks coming up. I just think he's can be overrated. Sometimes he can be underrated. But like when they start talking like, oh, he hasn't won an MVP yet. It's like, okay, tell me the year he should have won MVP, and I'll tell you why he didn't win it. Whether it was Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or whoever. Clint, I'll give you the last word.
Oh yeah. I understand what you guys are saying. If you have Russell Wilson, how many games do the Seahawks win this year? 10, maybe 11. Without Russell Wilson, we'll get to it. Their over under is 5.5. So you're going to win 4 less games and pay the dude all that money. And that's why I get what you're saying. You might be in quarterback limbo for 5 years, but you are going to be in quarterback limbo for the next 5 years with the aging Russell Wilson that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, so it really comes down to like for me, I guess, is just like how fractured was their relationship. But let's just talk about what will make their season a success. Let's start with you, Talon. As a Seahawks fan, what in your mind will make your season a successful season as you're watching your Seahawks play, week to week?
We haven't had a good O-line since the 2013 team. And so the 2 O-line that we drafted this year in Abraham Lucas out of Washington State, and then Charles Cross out of Mississippi, those 2 guys, why they excite me is because they weren't known for college for being these run blockers, which is what Pete Carroll's known for. No, they were known for their pass blocking. And so that's what I would like to see us build around. I want to, even if Geno Smith and Drew Lock don't perform well, I want to see that they had a clean pocket and that it was squarely on their shoulders. That way it gives a young quarterback coming out next year's draft a reason to want to join the team. Like, I'll be protected, You've got Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, DK Metcalf. I just want some glitter. I want to shine up and buff an old car that the Seahawks look like right now and give a young quarterback a reason to want to go there. So that would be a successful season for me. Keep our stars healthy and good O-line play.
Yeah, I like that one. How about you, Chad? What do you think will make the season a success for the Seahawks?
They get lucky. I feel like, you know, I was looking at their schedule and it's really not that bad. I think Geno has to play better than we probably think he's going to play. But if Geno can play ball, the Seahawks, I don't think they're going to be great. But I just looked at this schedule. This is not that scary outside of the division. Yeah, the AFC West is going to be tough, but there's a lot of fluff on this schedule. So I don't think that they're going to be as bad as most people think, but I think they're going to have a little bit of luck, to be honest with you. That's going to make the season good. But hey, if these guys can the young guys can learn the game, granted this year they're probably not going anywhere, but this experience is going to help them be a better team next year. So I think, forget the record, do their players improve? And if their guys can improve and really get used to the game, then they'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I that's what I had down to. Just like see these young guys perform, even if the first half of the season's really rocky. Like if the O-line gets better, if the defense gets better, like all that stuff. I'm not, and don't be mediocre. Like just don't be mediocre. That's the other thing. How about you, Jack? What would make a successful season for the Seahawks in your mind?
I mean, for everyone else to get hurt on the Niners. No, I'm joking. No, for me, they have to stay healthy at the running back position. I'm going to be very simple about it. When Rashad Penny gets the ball, he runs very well. He runs with power. He runs with vision. Kenneth Walker, great draft pick. Those guys have to stay healthy in order to give them a chance to get the fundamentals, to stay focused, because Pete Carroll, he's a cheerleader, okay? He's a great head coach for the defense. That defense is still somehow going to stay okay, and they need to stay healthy at running back. That's how success will come.
Okay, I like it. How about you, Clint?
Short and sweet. Success would be let the young guys play, get the snaps under their belt, and get a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I like that. I'm kind of in the same boat. Get that quarterback. That could potentially be your quarterback for the next 15 years. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and any additional questions? Anything that you wrote down? No? Okay. Let's good discussion on the Seahawks, but let's predict them over under. I found online 5.5 wins. Let's start with you, Talon. What do you got? Over under 5.5.
Like Chad was saying, our schedule has a lot of fluff, and I could see us winning those games. So I'm going to say over on that. I say we hit about 6 games.
Ooh, okay. Nice. I don't know if you want that, but okay, let's six games. How about you, Jack? What do you got, over under?
I'm going under if they don't get Jimmy G, obviously. 3 games.
3, okay. Interesting. Chad.
Oh, I'm going over. I mean, the Jets, Falcons, Panthers, Lions, no offense, they're going to beat the 49ers. I don't care if they're a bunch of cripples. They're going to win one game against the 49ers, and they're going to beat the Cardinals. So they're going over 5. I'm giving them 7 wins.
Oh, wow. 7 wins. The Lions, have you been even paying attention to Hard Knocks? They're no longer fluff. I'm just kidding. Clint, what do you got?
If Geno Smith is their quarterback, I will go under. They'll get 4 wins, 2 against the Cardinals. If they have if they get Jimmy, which I think they will, then I'll give them 6 or 7. So I'm going to go over because I'm convinced that's where Jimmy G is going to end up. So I will go with 6 or 7 wins.
Okay. I went under as roster is constructed. If Jimmy, I'm with you, Clint, though. If it's going to be over if Jimmy G goes there, which is not what you want, Talon. That's not what you want. But I will say that I will not predict whether they will beat the 49ers or the Cardinals, just to save face here. I'm not gonna, I gotta be the ref here. But I'm gonna say under. I have 5-12. I think they'll win 5 games. I agree with you. There's some fluff in that schedule, but I imagine that they'll like win one, lose one, win one, lose one, because they're kind of fluff in my opinion. Themselves. They're fluff too. It's not like they're a mediocre team. So okay. By a show of hands, how many think that they'll pick? I know Clint, you don't count because you think Jimmy G is going to get him over that 5. How many think that they'll pick in the top 5 at the end of the year? Be a top 5 pick. Okay, 2 and 2. Okay, two yeses, 2 no's. Okay, let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals. This is your. Thanks so much for watching this clip of NuttieBuddie Sports. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast, click on one of the links down below. And if you want to give us your thoughts on any team in any division, let us know in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will talk to you guys soon.